Pericles and Athens by A.R. Byrne. The Golden Age of Greece, seen through the life of her leading statesman. Let's see about finishing this part. Then what about an oligarchy's commands? If it legislates for the people without their consent, Pericles said, everything which one forces another to do without gaining his consent by persuasion seems to me to be arbitrary force rather than lawful. Well then, said Alcibiades, looking more innocent than ever, when the people, being stronger than the rich, legislate for the rich without their consent, is that arbitrary? Ah, Alcibiades, said the general, I was clever at that sort of subtlety when I was your age. I wish I'd known you when you were at your best, said Alcibiades. Alcibiades. A lot of that's happening now, isn't it? You talk to a guy working 3 jobs to support his family meagerly, to pay that $1,500 a month rent. Actually, no, back when it was even $500 a month rent for a 1-bedroom apartment, you had, people working multiple jobs to pay for things, because now even that's even more the case. And some of these people be like, they see millions of dollars in government welfare packages to certain individuals being even reported on, are the president at that time, Obama or Bush. Well, actually, God, this is under Obama, all this. But you saw that they'd be like, well, if I was in that position, I'd want the same thing done for me. It's like, you're talking about the leaders of 5 companies getting this huge payoff. It's not going towards employees, and various things like that. But people are like, so they're legislating welfare for the rich. Not all the rich evenly or anything like that, but, the poor are approving it. They're approving the welfare check to the rich before the welfare check of their retired grandmother that they can't take care of, because it's too expensive. Even the story of Pericles' talk with Protagoras was, in fact, first given to the world on a painful occasion. Young Xanthippus, exasperated by his wife's nagging, and unable, on his allowance, to give her the standard of life to which she was accustomed, at last borrowed money using his father's name. Now, one's spouse should know about what your situation is before they marry you. So therefore, never borrow money to provide people for their wants. That's not a good situation, even when it's not in interest. It's just not necessary. In due course, the creditor asked Pericles for his money back, and the story came out, whereat Pericles, probably foreseeing a lawsuit anyhow, and preferring to take the offense, not only refused to pay, but prosecuted the creditor for trying to obtain money by false pretenses. Xanthippus found himself compelled to give evidence on behalf of his money-lending friend, and the Protagoras story is part of the evidence he gave. In the course of an effort to show that his father was hopelessly eccentric, a matter on which most of Athens was already convinced, but always delighted to hear more evidence. But Xanthippus also said something far worse, namely that his father had been making love to his own Xanthippus' wife, a story at once pooh-poohed by most decent people, but carefully picked up by Stesimbrotos of Thasos and put into his memoirs. It is no doubt from the same source that we have the allegation that Pericles squandered his substance on Aspasia. Well, if Aspasia switched from being a prostitute to his wife, of course he's going to squander his substance on his wife, or even if she, stayed that sort of woman and sort of became an exclusive prostitute, still the same thing would have happened, right? Xanthippus had never felt any affection for his father, and he remained very bitter against him throughout the few more years that they both were to live. Pericles certainly had his share of personal troubles, but he usually managed to rise superior to them, into that Olympian calm of contemplation which so much annoyed those unable to share it. From some time during his reign comes the story of how once he was pursued with shouting and abuse all day by some man with a real or fancied grievance, how he took no notice of him throughout business hours, and how finally at sunset the man, presumably a lunatic, followed him home. At his door the Olympian turned and had his revenge, saying to one of his servants, "Take a lamp and see this gentleman home." And the last crisis, chapter 11. This will probably be 2 videos.